What was the last time you interacted with him? Did you see him that day? Were you with him?
I saw him just a few days before. We had a birthday dinner for his sister at Osaka. The last thing that I physically told him was, I'll see you later. I love you. Bye.
The last time that I saw Preston, I was working, so I wasn't able to go to the birthday dinner. But the last time I saw Preston was 2 weeks before the incident. We had went on a trip to Rocky Point, and we spent an extended weekend there. So it was nice to have those last memories with him. Preston did not like drama. He never had a mean word to say about anybody. He was always very kind and inclusive of other people.
He was, as I think everyone knows, a really big sports fan. He loved to watch and play pretty much all sports, especially basketball, golf, and football. He was very kind-hearted kid, always pretty happy about whatever he was doing. He had a very good spirit about him, and just always fun to be around. Always look forward to spending time with him.
Did you know he was going to go to this Halloween party? Is he much of a partier?
He'd never been to a party before.
I think he was full of excitement. It was his junior year. He had also just made the golf team, which was new for him. And he was going back into varsity basketball, and all homecoming, his birthday, he had just turned 16 a month before the assault. And so I think he was finding his newfound freedoms and kind of starting to come into that age. And this was actually the first school event party that he had went to. And I believe it was almost a last minute decision he had went to decide to go hang out with a couple of his friends, and they went by there. I think at the party they recognized kind of what they got into and were attempting to leave, and that's when it happened.
I know Preston is not one to start trouble anywhere, so that was hard for me to believe.
Where were you when you got news? What was the day like? The day of the party and the
We were having some people at our house for a gathering, and how I found out was I had my phone in another room charging, and my brother had come to the door, which I didn't think anything of it because I had invited him to, our house, but I could tell something was not right, like right away. So he had told me that Preston was at Chandler Regional, which was, just up the street from our house. Then him and I went down there, and that's kind of when I started to understand the gravity of the situation. Not quite fully at that moment, because I don't really have a medical background. My wife does. So at that point it was, I didn't know what to expect.
When you got to the hospital, his friends were there. Did they try to tell you, or was it just chaos?
They were really only letting me in the room.
Yeah, some of his friends were there in the regular waiting room. Nick went first to the hospital. I stayed back at the house, and I thought, okay, maybe it's a broken arm. Maybe he's got to go into surgery. Let me stay here, let Nick go see what's going on, because we don't live very far from Chandler Regional, and then I'll head down there. And I got a call saying, you need to come to the hospital now. So when I walked in, I went to the information desk, said, you know, Preston was brought in as a trauma, where is he? I could tell by the information desk, his face, that it wasn't good. And then they had brought me to the small conference room, which is never a good sign. Autumn and his aunt were sitting in there, obviously devastated. I went over, gave him a hug, tried to find out what was going on, and they said that they weren't going to let anybody back because Nick was in the ER trauma bay with them. And then I sat there for a second, and I got up and I was like, no, I'm not staying in this room. I want to know what's going on. So I went down to go find them and walked in to find Preston intubated and on cardiac medications, in a C-collar, just not how I expected to see him. Nick was obviously upset, you know, what you normally would do if you found your child like that, asking him to fight for his life. And we were given limited information still at that time, but we knew that he needed to be air vac'd out to Phoenix Children's. They didn't tell, at least me, the gravity of the injury, because my question was, why wasn't he in surgery emergently? And I didn't really get a direct answer on that. So it wasn't until we got to Phoenix Children's that we got more of an idea to the extent of his injuries. I quickly looked at his pupils and saw that he wasn't on certain medications to keep him intubated, and knew that there was extensive damage, which I had to kind of keep to myself. But still not knowing the big picture of exactly what was going on, I just felt as though he wasn't there at that point.
Melissa, I see you're wearing a shirt that says it's a Preston thing you wouldn't understand. Tell us a little bit about the shirt.
I love the shirt, and it kind of speaks to the community. Those who aren't familiar with Preston's story, sometimes it's a conversation starter, and the community at large has really stood behind us since the beginning and gathered a lot of people to bring awareness to teen violence, and also the gang, the Gilbert Goons that goes on, and the multiple incidents leading up to Preston's assaults. So it speaks volumes for that, the involvement with the community.
One milestone at a time, whatever happens. I want to continue to live a life that would make Preston proud, and do what we can to help the community.
My expectation is that those who assaulted Preston are held accountable to the fullest extent of the law, and that the people in power who run the cities and towns are aware of teen violence and the gangs and start taking forth more effort to curb that. School resource officers, you know, children should be able to attend school and not be in fear of their lives.